Everyone knows that feeling, wanting to experience more stories, but struggling to find the time. That's where Audible changes everything. With over 1 million audiobooks and Audible originals, there's a story waiting to spark anyone's imagination. Take The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley, the gripping psychological thriller that's keeping listeners on the edge of their seats. Imagine unraveling its mysteries during your morning commute, or losing yourself in its twists and turns while doing household chores. That's the magic of Audible. It transforms daily routines into opportunities for thrilling discoveries. The best part? Members get access to thousands of included titles, with new content added regularly. From bestsellers to hidden gems, every genre imaginable is at their fingertips. And with one easy-to-use app, switching between favorites or discovering new passions has never been simpler. There's more to imagine when you listen. Start a free 30-day Audible trial and get your first audiobook free at audible.com/Wondery. That's audible.com/Wondery.
Now it's time for Inspirational Women and my guest, Gina Cloud, an author of the book W.O.M.A.N, A New Definition, and a coach who works with women and men to be our true, our authentic selves. Gina Cloud, good morning, and thank you so greatly for being with us this morning.
Thank you, Kate. I really appreciate the invitation because I think the stuff that you're talking about on your show is really important for women and men. They like to listen in.
Absolutely, and there's always that room for receiving some insights for that feminine side of their nature.
Absolutely.
Right. Well, you are so many wonderful things, Gina Cloud, and not the least of which, of course, is author of this new book, W.O.M.A.N, W-O.M.A.N. Reminds me of a song, right? I am woman.
It's actually not a new book, though, Kate. I want to correct you on that. It's a reprint. The book came out in 2009.
Ah.
Yeah, it's a reprint with some new material. So, yeah, it's been around for a bit.
Well, that's good. But the fact that we have a reprint, some new material, means there still is much growth for us, more paths to wander down and to learn from for all of us. And I think this is great then that there's a reprint. There's, I feel, a real great need. Certainly, with it coming out in 2009, a lot has happened in the intervening years. So, right?
Yeah.
A whole lot.
Yeah.
So personally, but, just on the whole societal front, we've had lots of change going on, a lot more conversation about women, about who we are, about speaking the truth, speaking out, speaking up. All of that is so critical.
Yeah, and also we're in the throes now of even just defining what it actually just means to be female, because it's sort of being hijacked in a lot of ways in some of these radical agendas that are around us. And I'm a staunch advocate for protecting the feminine and remembering what that is and how anchored in our biology it is, because that's the real focus of what I teach, is that a woman's body is her true north. It's I call it the GPS, the goddess power source. And it's through what we experience through these cycles in our bodies, starting with our menstrual cycle to, if a woman has a baby, going through hopefully an organic, natural pregnancy without too much medical intervention. Because I'm very outspoken about the ways that our ability to experience really high frequency, almost shamanic, if you will, experiences are being interfered with and influenced by society, medicine, big pharma. And then menopause, one of the great taboos in women's lives, because it's a time where many women feel disposable and shut down, but it's another great portal and passage. So these all happen in our bodies, right? So our bodies are magnificent temples of wisdom.
Oh, that is all so beautiful and really giving us such a full capsule of what our life is, from birth to whatever those end days are, and seeing the feminine, the beauty of it all and embracing it. Whereas thinking of the latter years, how society has often, wanted to shun that and push that aside, but I think with what you are writing about and what we are seeing more of, women are more embracing that. Would you say?
I think we have to there's a differentiation that needs to take place here, because when you say society is more embracing it, there's more of a talking about it on the outside, but there's a lack of connectivity to the sacred inner container and the true meaning of things. Like, for instance, on Instagram, you can find all kinds of things about the menstrual cycle, right? You can see, but you'll see images of, of a woman lying on a bed and there's blood all over white sheets. And I look at that and I go, what does that have to do with what our cycles really are about? I do think on the menopause side, there are more women out there who are starting to talk about it openly, and this is critical, because one of the things with menopause is it's funny, I was having and this is in my book. One day, a friend of mine was here with me hanging out. We were supporting each other and getting some writing done. And she's having a hard time with her transition to menopause. And we started to look for some things, started Googling some things like menopause help, menopause support, and everything that came up was biological. Everything that came up was a drug. Everything that came up was how to fix the symptoms. And then I had a flash of insight, an intuitive hit to Google menopause shame. And Kate, when I did that, you can't even believe the Pandora's box that opened up. Because what happens for most women is we just go underground. We don't want to even say it's happening. We don't want to say we skipped periods. We don't want to say, because this society values youth so much. And I'm talking about American culture. It's different in other parts of the world. But American culture values youth and youthful beauty, because beauty has many flavors and shades throughout life, but we focus on youthful beauty. And even women who've hated their periods their whole life, when they start to hit this transition and periods start to disappear and, or they're scanty or everything, all the changes you go through, they don't even want to talk about it. They feel ashamed, and they feel like they're going to miss their period now, even though they never valued it, because it's a signal of fertility, right? So I think, going back to what you said, when it comes to the menstrual cycle, there's still a complete lack of ignorance, in my opinion, for the most part of what we're seeing in social media around it. It's more like, hey, let's talk about it. We can talk about it. But the way they're talking about it is shallow and lacking in the depth of what I like to say is sort of the sacredness of these bodies. And when I say sacred, I always like to clarify that I don't mean that in a religious context. I'm a spiritual person. I was raised with religion, with Catholicism. I'm a spiritual person, and that word literally means entitled to reverence and respect. So when we are just, having images of, women bleeding on white sheets and calling that empowerment, I say no. We're far from, if that's how you're going to define it, you're still missing the very important seed, and that's an appropriate word because, our ovulation is where it starts for everything with our cycle. And so they're still missing the seed. And so, but sometimes I look at it and I say, well, at least it's more out there. But when I look at the majority of what there is, there's a handful of people trying to approach it from a more sacred place, but the majority seems to be, like, rah, we bleed and we have our rights. And it's become sort of a kind of, I don't know, it feels a bit contrived, and I feel like women are still missing a lot of the teachings. Even my generation, it's like we weren't taught, there was this book I read 10 years ago, and there was this passing down of from grandmother to mother to daughter, feminine wisdom. And, of course, we don't really have that anymore. Our family systems are, by and large, lacking the shape they used to have. That's one way to say it, I guess. And so the teachings, it's harder to find them. And we don't live in a culture that's really promoting that kind of empowerment for women, by and large. There are people like myself out there doing it. But what makes it difficult, Kate, is it's the culture, also the Internet, because this is the kind of work that needs to be done really so much in person, where we can spend time with each other, where we can unwind over hours and days and, weeks, if we can make that kind of time, and to rest into our bodies and to listen to the body wisdom, because that's another piece of what I feel is so important is the intuitive guidance that comes from the alignment with our cycles, with listening to our bodies when we're growing life inside of us, of honoring the wisdom, most profound wisdom you'll ever know when you're going through the transition of menopause, instead of being focused on all the ways your body's changing. I'm not saying it's pleasant. I'm not saying that it's something that you shouldn't pay attention to, but when we're going through something difficult, if we can see the value of that transition, and we know that when we get to the other side, if there's something great waiting for us, it's like labor. I don't know if you have kids, but, when you're in labor, you're in so much pain, but on the other side is this beautiful baby that you've been growing inside you, right? And it's the same thing with menopause. It's like going through all this agony. And I don't want to say it that way, because I think I'm now quoting from a lot of the things I see expressed. I don't believe that to be true. It's not agony. It's challenging. It's uncomfortable. And we're sort of in a society now where everything that is slightly uncomfortable, we want to medicate away or distract away or do something so we're not present with it, instead of allowing the teachings of the wisdom coming forth from the body to find its way into our consciousness. And that's something that I really like working with women to do, especially in my one-on-one coaching. I really love helping women find that place inside them.
Oh, that is all so beautiful. And one thing that I just feel I need to comment on, though, in terms of women talking about, in terms of menopause and how difficult it is, it isn't. For me, it was not a difficult time. It's almost like it didn't happen, if that makes sense.
Right.
So I think yes, I didn't even think to look on the internet to find any information, because I didn't feel the need for it. But you're looking for it, and looking under shame is such a critical thing, because I think there is that kind of sense around it, like it's such a huge negative.
It's like sorry to interrupt you, but it's like women are feeling, I'm old and I have no value anymore. That's what happens. That's where the menopause shame comes from. And it's like, because we value youthful beauty, we get indoctrinated into thinking that our value as women is in our appearance. It's in our ability to, get a man or whatever, attract whoever you want to into your life. But that's not what it is. And I think that's where the shame comes from. It's like, oh, I'm old and I'm getting, it's a mindset that society feeds women. From the time we're little girls, the programming starts, Kate. And the fact, I think, that you went through it as easily as you did, and I did too, is probably because you were already aligned with your true self, with your true north in many ways. Because I talk about, in my book, I talk about how we go through life, and when we don't deal with whatever comes up in our lives on a regular basis, and that's what I say our cycles are for, like, because the premenstrual window, which I call powerful monthly sight, instead of premenstrual syndrome, I breathe into powerful monthly sight. Whatever comes up in that window right before you bleed, it's all the stuff you're pretending the rest of the month is okay with you. So when it comes up, it's a powerful opportunity to heal, to feel, to clear, to work through issues with people in your life, with your boss, with your kids, with whatever, because it's putting it right in front of you. So if you have been avoidant through your menstruating years, not dealing with issues, and you put them in what I call the basement, well, when menopause happens, it's like you have to clear out the basement. If you don't clear out the basement, you experience more physical stuff. But when you clear out the basement, or if you've been clearing it out through all your menstruating years, there's not a lot in the basement. And I think you probably didn't have a lot in your basement, Kate. So it's probably why you did, it went so easily for you.
Well, then I highly recommend that. Start early. Don't buy into all that, hype about physical appearances. Yes, look good, but look a certain way, and whatever that's going to cost. And I don't even want to go down the path of all the cosmetic surgeries that some women.
Oh my God!
Right?
Kate. Yeah. It's and when I talk about this piece, which I'm glad you brought up because it's all connected. I say I don't want to judge women who do it. But sometimes I have to acknowledge that I am judging women who do it. But then I get underneath it and I recognize that where I'm really coming from is a deep sadness and concern. Because the question is, why are women doing this, right? Well, it's again, if we don't understand that from the time we're little girls, we are being programmed to believe our value in our work is in how we look, and that particular look is very specific, right? And now we have young women in their 20s getting Botox and doing, and it's funny, I was doing some research on Botox the other day because it's very dangerous. And a lot of these things that are performed on women for the sake of youthifying, if I can make up a word, is actually very dangerous, has not been long-term tested. And what's going to happen to our bodies down the road with all these fillers and injections, not to mention the surgeries and everything else. And for women who are doing it, I want to ask them, do you know why you're doing it? I mean, sit down and be real with yourself. Do you know why you're doing it? And the answer, a lot of times, I think it becomes because I want to look better. Okay, well, what is the difference between good and better? Like, what in that superlative range? What does that mean? What are you qualifying that with? Who told you need to look better? Why is the way you look not good enough? Because we're getting visual messages and cues everywhere we turn. And the sad thing to me, Kate, also is that women's faces have now started to look homogenous because of these treatments being so rampant. And natural beauty is something that is becoming more difficult to find. I remember about 10 years ago seeing an article that said the most beautiful natural woman in the world. And I stopped because I went, whoa, this has really become a thing. And now we're separating what is a natural woman, meaning someone who hasn't had work done, or maybe I don't even know what their parameters were. Maybe it's natural as long as you haven't had surgery and fillers are okay. But the thing to me is that I want women to really, we can stop this insanity. This is all patriarchal stuff that's been running our lives for a very long time. And we have all the power. We can say, no, I'm going to let my hair go gray. I am going to, celebrate. And I'm a huge self-care junkie, Kate. And I get 2-hour massages every week, and I go to the spa, and I love nourishing my pleasure centers, and I love experiencing those kinds of things. And that's something that I really enjoy doing as a woman. And those rituals are powerful because they allow me to stay really connected to my deeper inner wisdom because I have some quiet and solitude, and I go into my body because the body is the teacher. A woman's body is her teacher. And so being able to say, I honor and value my beauty. My beauty is uniquely my beauty, and I'm not going to start, messing with my face, because once you do anyway, I've seen pictures of what happens at the end of the road. Once you start, you kind of can't stop. And think about when I say, why do you do it? I asked a friend of mine who's very much into it, and I said, what would happen to you if tomorrow there was no Botox and there was no treatments to get? What would you do? There's no makeup. What would you do? And she got really quiet. And I said, if we don't learn to be comfortable with our naked faces and our naked bodies, we're going to constantly be in this state of I'm not good enough. And in living in a state of I'm not good enough, let me fix the outside, never allows you to get to what's on the inside. And that's the rub, because I believe in many ways that's the plot of the patriarchy. And I always like to say when I'm talking about patriarchy, I'm talking about the societal structure, not men. There are plenty of good men out there who will agree with me as I'm saying all of this. So if we spend our waking hours and our dollars on, trying to meet an impossible standard, and one that actually really, in my opinion, doesn't make most women look beautiful, it just makes them look homogenous with other women. If we never get there, then how do we step into our power? How do we become the forces that we are as women if we're so distracted all the time by the outside? And I think that is what the plot has been for a long, long time. And so I want women to know, it may be difficult because we're judging ourselves all the time on the standard of how do we look. And putting that down is challenging, but that's one of the things that I love to do with women, is to help them find that pathway so that they can unhook from all of this dogma and dicta that has been driving us and keeping us suppressed. And a lot of the things that are out there that are seemingly about women being empowered now aren't. It's just a surface label. And when you get underneath it, it's still really, really empty. And that breaks my heart because I know the beauty and the power that we are as women, Kate.
So you divide your time, Gina, between living in the U.S. and in Europe. Do you find there's a difference in Europe that women will be more self-accepting, that don't need to go through all the stuff, the permutations that happen here in America?
Well, I'll just clarify, I'm in the U.S. pretty much full-time the last 3 years. I'm actually going to Italy in a couple of weeks, but there is a difference that I've noticed. But it depends on where you are. If you're in really big cities, you see the cosmetic surgery stuff not nearly as much as, like, I live in California, and it's, like, rampant here, and probably one of the worst states for it. But you do see a difference. And when you watch European films, this was something years ago when I was in my 20s even, I would watch European films, and I was amazed because if there was a sex scene or a love scene or a nude scene, the bodies were normal. The women had cellulite. They were like, nobody was trying to make things not look normal, the way things really are. And that's one of the things with, like, there's the movement to have, like, advertisements for, like, underwear, clothing, they're, plus size stuff. They're showing that's a normalization of, how women really look, which I think is a great thing. But it is different, in different places that you go. And it's also very interesting to me to see how men, it's not a big deal that a woman is aging, unless it's putting her face to go after young women. And I do see a big difference between the cosmetic surgery and fillers industry in other countries and cultures. It's different from what I see here. And I've asked men, I've had guy friends who, who come to me, they're dating. We have a lot of conversations around dating and the struggles, and they'll just say to me, what is with these eyelashes and duck lips? And I said, do you like them? And every guy I've talked to is like, no, I don't. But it's like everybody's doing it, and I end up staring at these things. And most men, for the women that are doing it for men, but a lot of women are doing it because they feel they have to, because of the messages that they've been programmed with. But in my conversations with men, they would much prefer you in your natural state, But it's a programming. And if we don't become aware that we're being programmed, then we end up coming to the programming.
So this is where this kind of conversation, making ourselves pursue getting your book, W.O.M.A.N, W.O.M.A.N, a new definition. I think that's just so powerful. But from that, as you were mentioning earlier about having feminine rituals, I go back to thinking the indigenous people had these rituals,
yes.
Right?
Yes.
And we just don't. We need to resurrect that, bring it back in, and maybe with that, we can transform from looking at cosmetic surgeries to look a certain way to then bringing us back to just who we are, the beautiful person we are, right?
Exactly. And that's why the subtitle on my book, because WOMAN is an acronym, each letter, it's wild, open, magical, authentically empowered nectar. But the subtitle is really important. It's a new definition for reclaiming the feminine. And rituals are a critical thing. And that's why I feel like this disconnected internet universe that we're in, where we don't really spend time in person, I find that really difficult in terms of trying to do a business model, because what's really important to me is to be physically in a space with someone, or to work one-on-one, like with coaching. We can be on a video call, but we're still one-on-one. It's just me focused on you, and that's really important, because then you have to engage with me. Because a lot of these platforms that are doing classes and stuff online, people still won't say anything, or they turn up their camera, or they're there, but they're not. So to me, I don't want to take your money if I can't help you, if I can't really do something for you. And that means you have to engage. It means you have to get involved in your own life, So my standards come from my desire to make a difference at a really radical and high level for women. And men have gotten so involved in the conversations, and men read my book because they've said not only did they learn a lot more about women through our biology in particular, but there were pieces that resonated for them as well in terms of like my chapter, Authentically Empowered. The rest it couldn't, because it's all about women and our bodies and our psyches through the body. But so I had a really beautiful following with men, and I ended up getting involved with coaching men because we were talking about dating and relationships and sexuality. And a lot of men have had porn addictions I've worked with because they've recognized how that's been sort of sabotaging their ability to have real relationships. And I think men want real relationships just as much as women do. It's a human thing.
Yes, absolutely. So there is just such great value here, just important information for us to just get to the essence of who we are. Otherwise, it's ultimately just a plastic society.
Yeah, and that's what makes me... Sometimes, honestly, Kate, sometimes I just want to, like, go find somewhere, like an island somewhere and just disappear into the natural world, because sometimes it just weighs heavily to look at how we keep going deeper into the rabbit hole of disconnection through, quote, technological advances. Mm-hmm. And I think, where are we going to be if we don't hold on to our humanity? And where are we going to be if women don't step into our power, really step into our power? Because I believe we have the ability, and I think in some ways it's our destiny, to bring this world back to a place of the heart and love. And, as long as we're out there chasing the meat suit and how it looks, it's going to make it really difficult to do that. But there is an awakening happening, and I continually remind myself of that. And connecting with people like you, and I want to thank you for this interview, connecting with people like you shows me that there are a lot of us out there, and we each have a piece in the puzzle in terms of how to make this happen. And, it's a conversation for men and women. When I talk to women, I always invite men in, because we can't do this on our own. And I also think that, years ago I would have called myself a feminist, but now feminism has become so toxic. It's become like I hate men. I have so many guy friends who tell me, and who are huge supporters of women and empowering women in a really incredible way, and how they're being treated. And I just think things are going too far. And the farther out we go, it's making us lose touch with that hand-in-hand, heart-to-heart ability and gift that we have in our humanity. And I just really hope that I can be a part in helping us to reconnect with all of that.
You are a part. We wouldn't have this conversation if you weren't already doing something and being an instrument of change, bringing this to our attention with your writing, with your coaching. We should mention your website too, Gina, because there's a wealth of information there.
Yeah, my website is really, I have a great blog there with all kinds of amazing, I always say as a writer, like, it's not me. I just feel like I'm an amazing channel for the divine to flow through me. And sometimes I read stuff I've written and I go, wow, that's really good. Where did that come from? I'm like, it's not Gina. It's not me. It's like, it's wisdom, and I'm just being used as an amazing vessel. But my blog is really great. There's all kinds of stuff there. But GinaCloud.com, it's just my name.com is the website. You can find out a lot of things there. My coaching program, the stuff is there for both men and women. I think there's a little tab there that says, Hey Guide. And there is a lot of stuff on the website to explore. And you can get the book through there. The book is on Amazon. It did become an international bestseller in Canada and Australia, I think, in addition to the U.S. And I also, one of my big focal points is really talking to women about sexuality, because it's another topic that is not really being discussed in a way that is honoring of women. And what we tend to do, like with menopause shame, is we just go mute. We don't even talk to our girlfriends sometimes about these things. We just go mute, and we bottle it, and we stuff it inside, and it festers, and it becomes more of the I'm not good enough, I'm not beautiful, and it just unhooks you from your power. So if anybody wants to work, I'm an amazing coach. I have to say that. I've really, and in a very short period of time, within a few months, I have been able to help every woman I've worked with, and man. So then that's something I really love to do, because I love to make each woman, man, shine and come alive and free up the bondage, tear away the binding around the heart in particular, and for women around our bodies. So GinaCloud.com.
Oh, that's such amazing, important work. And I'm just so grateful that you are led to it, and that the book is doing so well, because that's a great inroad for us to be able to work with ourselves, but to encourage people to reach out to you through the website for the coaching. And who knows, maybe eventually this will evolve into creating some sort of in-person workshop to learn about rituals.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah, working on it.
Well, we'll look forward to that, Gina. It's just really having the conversation feels empowering. So I am just hoping, trusting that those hearing it will feel the seeds resting in their hearts and then seek out more.
I hope so, too. And thank you again, Kate. I really think the work that you're doing is really important, and you're using your voice as a platform, and that's what we need more of.
Well, thank you. It needs conversation, so that's where, wonderful guests like yourself, women doing the work in the world, sharing it here, because this is a powerful medium to do it.
Absolutely.
Well, again, many thanks, Gina Cloud. And that brings us to the end of a very full hour of Inspirational Women with Gina Cloud and Sunday Morning Magazine with Pamela Gockley. I'm Kate Daniels, your host, and I greatly appreciate your sharing this hour with me and these special guests. For details you might have missed or information you'd like to know, please just send me an email, kated@warm1069.com, and I will get right back to you. Also, if you'd like to listen again or to share these important stories with your family and friends, find the podcast on our Warm 1069 webpage. Just click on the podcast tab, then either of the show names, and then look for the guest names. I now wish you and your family a day of being in touch with the beautiful, authentic people each of us is. Have a week of the same, and then please plan to join me again next weekend for another hour of Sunday Morning Magazine and Inspirational Women on Warm 1069. Good morning.